Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwelling Show. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got an incredible legend with us today, Ken Van Liew. Hey, Ken, how you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal, Ola. How are you, my
I'm
friend? Good
doing
to see you.
fantastic. Yeah,
Good to
I'm
see
doing.
you.
Yeah, yeah. You showed me a magic trick just before we joined, so I'm like super pumped. Can't wait to even get to know you a little more.
Sure,
So,
sure,
yeah. So, Ken, kind of tell our listeners a little bit more about who you are, kind of what you've been up to and what you've been up to lately, actually.
sure. I always tell people I've been with the same woman for 38 years, been married 33 years. We, my dear wife, best friend, Terry, and three amazing kids, and that led into being so proud that I started to accomplish a few things, and I became, I made myself CEO of Global Real Estate Strategies and just really wanted to start helping people. And that led me to figure out a formula over time that I've been able to now pay it forward. And that's been the modern wealth building formula. And what I've been doing lately is, developing real estate. We're doing and buying real estate. We're doing two large projects in New Jersey. One is a 24 acre. Used to be a former, it was called Larson's Turkey Farm. Back in the day, you'd go there as a little kid. They'd make you think you'd pick the turkey in the back, and it was actually the same one on the table, but that wasn't the case, of course. But we picked up this beautiful turkey farm, and we're going to restore the old restaurant that's now over 100 years. But we were able to create a multi-use development with affordable housing, market rate housing, believe it or not, 20,000 square foot of office space, which I'm going to try to maybe convert into a Wawa, which would be much, I think, more attuned to the environment. But we also have the primary driver, which is a CVS, which we're looking forward to. We're going to start building that and break ground in hopefully June or July. We're in for approvals now. And then we have another 13-acre site that we're developing residential and self storage. And my, I guess, claim to fame is back in the day I developed, when I first started my first project, so I teach top down thinking, was a development of a $17 million 113 bed assisted living with other people's money and other people's experience. And that led to, before and after, to building a bunch of, skyscrapers in New York City. So I've been really lucky to build, a bunch of buildings in New York City and build, almost $1.3 billion worth of real estate in New York City. So it's been just a phenomenal ride and a lot of great like got a lot of great war stories.
Yeah, no, thank you so much I'm just taking a bunch of notes as you're talking. Yeah, I mean, developers, kind of have this, I guess, mystique around them. Like, I read a book about development, and the writer talked about developers have this kind of mystique about them. Like, people don't really know what they do. They're like an orchestra, just kind of controlling all the individual elements of the development project. So yeah, I think I want to kind of go back a little bit actually before your very first project. Why did you get into real estate? I mean, how did that happen? Kind of give us a story. What were you doing before? And what made you make that switch into real estate? I think that would be really interesting for folks here.
Yeah, great question, because I came in probably different than most people. And, I was a slow starter. And what happened, I was 18 years old, which was in 19, I graduated at 17 high school. So I was 18 years old, and the book came out by Robert Allen, how to buy real estate with no money down. And at that point, I couldn't even buy a car. So I was just like, I scraped up $700 to get a car. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to ever buy real estate with no money down. But that book went on the shelf, and I read it. It must have planted a seed, because fast forward, after creating the 6 year plan in college, it took me a few to get going. I graduated with a civil engineering degree. And the funny thing was, I wanted to be an engineer, but for my senior design award, I won a, a design development award. And it was for a 13-acre project. And part of that project, you actually had to like do the full design, like subdivide it and, do the drainage and put the cul-de-sac in. And it was just a fascinating experience. And I win this award, and I'm like, wow, wonder if I could ever like develop real estate one day. So anyway, I start this civil engineering job, and I was just pulling my hair out. No pun, I don't have any hair right now, so but I guess I pulled it all out, right? And the next thing and I used to work at night. I was still single, and I was working for a lawyer doing construction claims, and I always like construction, and I win this development award, and this client of his is like, "Hey, you want to go build a project in Poughkeepsie, New York?" I'm like, "Sure, why not?" I didn't even know what I was doing. I go up there, I become a project super and a project manager on a 32 unit building that I built through the winter. And being a little, I guess, confident from being a football player, bringing some gridiron experience out there. After doing this building, I said to my wife one day, I'm going to be on the water building a high rise next week because I saw this article in the newspaper. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, I'm building two 33-story high rises for the Left Rack organization. And that led me to start building buildings and working for like Left Rack. And then I worked for another owner developer. And they said, "Hey, Ken, if you want to be the best in the world, you should go build in New York City and build more high rises, because New York City is like the major league all-star game, right? You know, all-star games, whether it's major league or football all-star games, most people that play in the all-star game can play in any game worldwide. So I go to New York and I do 20 years of, building high rises. And one day, I'm just looking out and I'm like, wow, the money's in the real estate. I'm just like, I just have a job. I'm just a project manager, project executive. I was a big shot, a lot of ego, fancy suit, tie, all that mucky muck stuff, degrees and, but it didn't teach you how to make money, So I worked up this corporate ladder and I was like, I'm going to give it a shot, and I started to think and realize like, wow, all these people are making fees. I'm like, wow, there's 9 ways to earn fees. And, maybe I can do this. And I don't mean to hijack the call here. You can ask more questions, but now it gets juicy, So, I'm in this like quagmire. I have twins, and I can't afford the formula and I can't afford the diapers. And I'm like 1 month they did 700 diapers. And I was like, I have to do something. So I from my ears to God, my voice to God's ears, I had this dream, and out of the blue, my wife says, "Hey, Ken, you want to go play golf at this country club?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? I can't afford a country club. I can't even, what are you talking about?" She goes, "No, my mom's company is recruiting members. You can go play at Colonia Country Club." I'm like, "Well, I guess maybe I won't feel guilty. I'll go play and I'll have golf and have lunch." And I start daydreaming on the course, and I'm like, "Wow, how would it be to be at the country club, and I could be around people with money, and then I could tell them my story because I'm going to be successful, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm going to get them to invest in me, and I know I can do this. I know I can do this." And I come home and I convinced my wife, like, that we could charge it to the credit card because they had this executive special. And $5,000 I joined. And now I'm like, okay, I got to get out on the golf course. I start playing. We have the twins. I'm away from home, all stressed. And I start, I'm playing my 4th round with this young kid. He's telling me, I got 100 guys working for me. I charge 150. I pay him 75. I'm like, wow, this guy's making like 100 grand a month. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be buying real estate and I'm going to be a developer, and, I'll let you, be first right of refusal. He's like, I'll give you 100 grand. I'm like, really? So I literally go home. I tell my wife I'm going to quit my high paying executive job in New York City and start a company. She goes, "You're crazy." I said, "No, I have this taxation filtration system. I'm going to live off 5 grand a month. This is how I'm going to do it. Each layer of company is going to pay my bills." And you know what? It worked. So I leave my job and I take this 100 grand. I pay myself 5 grand a month. I have it all planned out. Do my taxation filtration, go into a C corp, then into an S corp, then into 2 LLCs, then pay your kids. That whole thing, all legal. Make sure my accountant don't let me cross the line. And sure enough, the next thing you know, 3 months into the dream, I get a 7.5 acre site with a doctor that has a certificate of need. The next thing you know, I'm developing a $17 million, 113 bed assisted living. And I was in real estate by kind of like that. It was pretty cool.
Wow. Wow. What a story. What a story. You touched on so many things. We always talk about country club money in multifamily investing, which is what I do. So that's one source of getting equity. So you did that without even knowing, but that's what you did. You were able to, get connected with wealthy people, and you obviously use that money to do some more real estate. So I really love that story. So you got the site. Tell us about the site. I'm kind of curious. I want to hear more.
About the
The,
first site. Yeah, it was just
yes.
amazing. So here I meet a dentist. It's kind of funny. And it's funny because just for your listeners on how you find deals, it's all through building relationships and level 5 listening. You're listening to me today. I'm doing most of the talking, and I've listened to you. I know your story. I appreciate you having here. But it's really about the relationship that we built. And I was reaching out, going, okay, I'm on my own. I got to make this happen. The clock is starting. Ching ching. And it led from a college buddy who built a project with an architect. An architect led me to a dentist. The dentist had a certificate of need. I didn't even know what it was at first. Come to find out that the state needed 113 beds, and I could, build a 90 unit, 113 bed assisted living on his property. And the day I met him, I was like, wow, I know how to build that. I'm not sure about all the assisted living stuff, but I'll figure that all out. And I went on to literally, it was amazing because I had gotten that 100,000. So I said, okay, how can I do this? I did it in 3 tranches. You're probably familiar with raising money and doing multifamily. So I go, okay, I'm going to raise $400,000, and that's going to get me through the planning board. So I go put my dream team together. I didn't know anybody. Go down to the city, try to solicit people. They didn't want to help me. Find out who was the previous, attorney on the board. Call him. He hooks me up with a planner or a traffic guy. The next thing you know, I start having this little dream team that's going to design this thing. The next thing you know, I go in. Within 6 months, I get the approval for the 113 bed assisted living. Now, during that time, as soon as I got the approval, I was kind of lining up the financing. Didn't have a lot of money. So I go, now I got to raise another $400,000 so I can get the construction drawings done and get everything teed up. Because a project of that nature, it ended up being about 11 million, 9.2 million in construction. The drawings are pretty thick. So it cost about $400,000 to get drawings. So then I brought it all the way right to the finish line, and I financed it through the New Jersey EDA. A lot of sources of money out there, listeners. Never give up. I find the New Jersey EDA going to give me 90% of the deal with money to absorb. It was incredible. Sure enough, all I needed was to raise another 600,000. So I ended up, it was 4, 4, and 6 for a total, 1.4. We closed on the loan. I had a shovel on the site because now construction was my expertise. I had the building prefabbed in Pennsylvania, plank, metal studs in Plainfield, New Jersey. When we broke ground, foundation went in 2 months. The building went up in 3. We were into finishes. We finished it in 13 months. I basically gave away the management of the facility to Meridian Healthcare Systems, and that was my first project.
Wow. Wow. It seems like there's a pretty nice cushion as well based on the numbers that you gave. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal project. I was able to earn on the development fee, then I earned on the construction, I earned on the ownership, and it worked out nice, and I was able to, utilize 3 of, several ways to skin a cat. But you said it before, I felt the feeling, as you said, the orchestrator, and I felt that way because at the closing, I literally had each person come into a little side office at this major law office in Newark, New Jersey, and was able to, like, give them a little haircut.
I bet. I bet. I mean, if
I
there's
want them to look more like me.
I mean, if there's a listener right now thinking, "Oh my goodness, that's pretty remarkable," and they're trying to start out to be a developer, like, what would you say is the first step, in becoming a developer? Right? It seems like kind of a bit of a challenging club to join, right? It's like, what do you do to become a developer? There isn't any degree per se you can take out there. It's just kind of a very mysterious,
Yeah.
role to have.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned that before. It's mysterious in the sense, but all of us actually put our pants on just like you, one leg at a time. I tried one time to jump up and go in two legs and I fell, you know, but, great question, because, the first thing, and I don't want to, be repetitive for other people, let's say, but the first thing is you have to believe in yourself and believe that you can learn from the top down, right? And that you don't necessarily need to start from the bottom and learn everything, right? And when you understand, coaching, just because I came from football, not that I recommend everybody gets a coach. My view of coaches, right? I was an all-state football player, was that coaches saw things in me that I didn't see, right? So, if I missed the tackle, he would say, well, if you went on a little bit more of an angle when that running back, because he's faster than you, you'll have a chance to catch him. If not, he's going to smoke you around the corner. And it was all just the angle, the micro distinction, where coaches see that, or mentors you can mirror and model, and any person that wants to do something that's a process, because development's a process. If they have to focus on process mastery, right? And process mastery starts with mirror and modeling, right? Matching and mirroring modeling, and then you know you know figuring out a plan and then measuring it, right? So, but if you don't believe that you can do it, you're gonna hit some roadblocks. But I would say in development is believe and get a mentor, and realize that, the development is the zenith of real estate development, and that you're going to be confused and you're going to be frustrated. But the good news is, when you're confused, that means you're going to learn something. And when you're frustrated, you're going to have a breakthrough, right? So, for those, whether it's overachievers or, whoever wants to get into real estate, think big or go home is what I always say.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I would want to just keep going on and on. But we definitely do it into the quick rounds. Actually, before we do the quick rounds, you have a book, right? So I want you to quickly talk about your book, actually.
Yeah. You know, I had all this stuff in my head, because in 2008, I created a program. Back then it was called eight-figure deals with no money. But I converted it into real estate development made simple. And what it was very complex. It was kind of in the stratosphere, where people were like what you said, it was mystical and too much magical, and I said, one day I want to kind of break it down and teach people, even though I developed what I did applied to everything. And that's when I one day had this epiphany about the modern wealth building formula. And it was really, the massive action that I had been taking, and the wisdom that I had gotten over the years, and this bold leadership, and, this forward thinking. And then all of a sudden I put this puzzle together, and the modern wealth building formula title came out. And, what I derived from real estate development is that there's a process. As I said, it's finding real estate, funding real estate, and facilitating real estate, whether it's a multifamily deal, whether it's a wholesale deal, whether it's a commercial real estate, whether it's a development, entitlement. Those three components apply across the board. I then thought, if I could put together, like I would call that the system, that's part of the formula, and apply some of the self mastery principles that I had learned over the years, and some of the influence mastery skills that I had learned over the years, it started to put a formula together, around real estate. I also found that the formula almost applies to every type of business, right? But the modern wealth building formula is extremely focused on how to master real estate investing, and it shows you how to do it with other people's experience and other people's money. After building skyscrapers, I proved it down to wholesaling. I was a partner in a company called Flipping USA, and we did 137 deals in 1 year. Because when people start doing wholesaling, they're going to get all excited. They're going to want to, scale it. and don't get me wrong, there's methods out there where you could scale and not use money, but it helps to use other people's money and it allows other people to benefit from what you're doing, right? And that to me, it's all about paying it forward. And that's what it's kind of about. The formula, it's pretty phenomenal. It talks about the system for real estate, where you're at in real estate, the different flavors of real estate, how I took my elevator to the penthouse. It talks about the find, fund, and facilitate system. And it's, I think, one of the best real estate books out there because I've read them all.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I normally talk about, finding equity and finding deals. I've never heard about the facilitating bit.
Yeah,
So it's really funny because that's one of my mantras is find equity and find deals.
yeah,
And I love the fact you actually have to hold and facilitate that process because any point in that process, a deal can fall apart. So you need to be able to get that deal all the way to the finish line.
yes, yes,
Yes. All right. So we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. These are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready, sir?
yes, sir.
All right. First question. What makes you, Ken, unique? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or the next girl?
My primary focus is to help others and to bring them to their greatness.
Awesome. You talked about reading a lot. What was the last book that you read? And what was the one thing that you picked up from that book?
Yes. Believe it or not, it was, let me think. Wow, I read so many books. The last one I read was on black box thinking. Sorry about that. It just came to me. And what I took away from that is, it was about medical procedures and how there's a lot of errors and that, you should just always get a second opinion. Sorry for my
Wow.
hesitation there. It was a book that I normally didn't read, but that was it.
Yeah, fascinating. I like that. Final question. You've got your amazing wife, who you've been with for, more than 3 decades, as you said. You've got your businesses. You've got obviously your kids as well. You're a busy man. What do you do for fun?
Yeah, great question. I love doing magic. I love playing golf, and I love being with family. Now my daughter just got married. She's valedictorian, nutrition. My son is a U.S. intelligence Marine officer. They're going to both be home this weekend, so I have a lot of fun hanging out with them. We may even go hiking. You know, we like to do stuff in the snow. I'm a fun guy. I like to be the life of the party if I can, but I'm also just I lay back and I like to see people come to greatness.
No, I really appreciate that. So if there's anybody, listening and thinking, wow, I really like this Ken guy. I want to get connected with Ken. Where's the best place people can reach out, get to know you more?
Yeah, if you just go to kenvanliew.com, there's a Discover Now button that actually brings you to a free 45-minute strategy call with me, and we can continue talking like buddies or friends or ladies, gentlemen, whoever wants to come in and talk. And I hope I can leave you with some value.
Ken, thank you so much. Really appreciate spending, time with us here today. Really, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.